And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
I'm Justin.
And together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename too.
We're going to be your host for this episode and, of course, for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
Whether you like it or not. Anyway.
Today is our 91st episode.
Something is off. You look different.
Thanks?
Your edges, they're more crisp. Are you in front of a green screen?
Yes, I'm back in the office today. My sickness has been somewhat vanquished.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good to hear.
We literally had lunch today in person.
Oh, was that actually you? I thought that was just your robotic avatar.
Shh, don't tell people about that. It's top secret.
Oops, my bad. You definitely do not have a top secret government-funded robotic avatar. No, definitely not.
People are saying I'm still quiet.
Yeah, I see that. I'm trying to figure out. We tested this before. There was volume.
Or as a point, we have to finish our script first. If we don't finish our script, what's even the point?
Did you change your volume, Justin? Because now you're getting...
I did just up the volume.
No, don't. Turn it back down. Turn it back down.
Fine. Okay. I've turned it back down.
Yeah, you were clipping something hard there.
Oh, okay. Let me just cough for a bit.
We'll just do that. We'll do that. All right. Keep speaking.
Okay. Well, as always, we're here to answer development and design questions about idle champions.
Nope. I don't know how this happened.
No,
Why does this happen?
As always, we're here to mess with the sound settings.
I know, seriously.
For a few minutes before the questions can begin.
The levels looked fine. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, let's carry on.
What's going to happen if they don't ask any questions?
Justin needs to scream for the rest of the episode. Did you actually... Oh, something's going wrong with you, Justin.
Something's going wrong with me?
Yeah, you clipped out.
Oh, dear.
All right. Well, I can turn myself down a little bit and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. I don't know why we have such issues with the audio here.
Well, to be fair, I haven't been on this computer for, a few weeks, so...
Yeah. All right. Where were we? Right, of course. If you don't ask any questions, however, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of, really, Avatar, The Way of Water? Really?
Yes. I should mention, I have not actually seen it.
It's long.
But is it good?
It's long.
Okay.
All right. I do wonder if there's something we can do to make you a little louder, Justin.
Well, I mean, I turned myself up, and that didn't help. I got the mic, I don't know. It's it's right here, guys. It's I'm not that far away. So...
Okay, keep talking, Justin.
Keep talking. All right. Well, yeah. How's everyone's weekend been? Anyone go and see Barbenheimer?
All right. Did that make an was that an improvement for people?
That's better now, says Loopy.
Good.
What'd you do to me? What'd you do?
I changed the volume. All right. Okay. There are volumes in various places. That was the system volume. Yeah. All right. At any rate, I think we're good for sound, so we can carry on. As always, we've pulled some questions from the previous show that we did not get to, and so we're going to answer some of those while we're waiting for new questions to come in. But of course, before we get to those, I do have some updates on items we'd like to get looked at by the dev team. So without any further stalling for time, that's definitely what we were doing, stalling for audio issues. I put them in on purpose just so we get some questions. We don't have to suffer through the one-man show.
Suffer? I take offense to that.
Sure.
My one-man shows are world-renowned.
Okay. gonna have to show me the receipts on that. Anyway, let's see. For fixes and new features, there is actually nothing on that list. This is very disappointing. I'm going to have to take that up with Peter. But we do have an in-progress list of items which are still in progress, and that is the following. We're going to make it so that season champions do not appear in the free time gate choice. Now that you can open 1,000 chests, we are going to go through and make a pass on how many you can buy at a time. We do need to go through and make sure there are hotkeys for all the new systems, such as seasons and other systems that just didn't get a hotkey on them. It's funny to say new systems like seasons, because we're almost approaching a year for that. But I was told last week that we might have been running out of hotkeys, so I'm going to have to follow up on that too. Add a hide UI button for the lower UI, although that may be up in the air depending on how many backgrounds don't or kind of end underneath the UI. Although we might have a little bit of breathing room there because I know the console UI is a little bit lower. Still doing a pass and confirming that all the areas have distractions properly assigned to them. We're going to prevent a player that is kicked from a trials lobby from just simply rejoining. Order the favorite display just not to be ID order. Adding a sort to the shop by price, which just makes way too much sense. And an option to sort by slot back to the blacksmithing contract screen, and arrows for fine-tuning selections of blacksmith contracts on touchscreen. Looks like for announcement we've got a big nada, so that's not gonna.
Yep.
We're just gonna skip over that.
No.
It says Justin is really quiet, but I think we fixed that. So.
Yes, that was from earlier.
Okay. Let's just dig into the questions from last week then. First question from last week is from Supercollins. Supercollins asks, since Beetle and Grim have been in the game for a while now, how would you ever consider doing another champion that changes form like they do? Not necessarily two people, but changing forms beyond just wild shape.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have been talking a little bit about a champion that does something like this via specialization choices. Potentially being able to like change classes via a specialization choice, and then having a different set of abilities unlocked based off of that. It is tough to do something like that though, because it basically means you're designing 2 or 3 or 4 champions in one, and oftentimes that means you're going to be using up ideas from 2 or 3 champions just on one champion. So it can feel a little bit like a waste of ideas, because it actually is 100 and something champions into the game. It's actually very challenging to come up with things to make new champions unique. So I think it's something that we're interested in doing, but it's something we have to be very careful about, because we have to strike that balance between having interesting and unique things with each sort of form, and not using up all our good ideas on just one champion.
Okay. Next question. This is from Highlander, like a directory. Are you planning on moving towards a more idle-friendly direction again? As in going more towards pure tanks, DPS, healers, without all of the mind-hurting meta of having to place certain champions with certain others and or in certain positions to get the most out of them? Or are you planning to continue making game more advanced to get the most out of the majority of champions?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question, and I think the answer is that we are planning to continue in the direction we are going, which is we want champions to be unique, and we want you to be able to tweak your formation and change who's in the formation and where they are in the formation in order to maximize your progress. Now, with that said, I don't think that you have to do that in order to enjoy the game. I know there are a lot of players out there who are not running the most optimized formation. I'm one of them, and I'm still able to complete most of the content without needing to resort to crazy meta formations or things like that. So I think it's really about just being able to play the game the way you want to play it. And if you don't want to optimize, that's fine. Your DPS numbers might not be as high as somebody who does, but you should still be able to enjoy the game the way that you want to enjoy it. And so, yeah, I think we'll continue to put in champions that allow for people who want to do those tiny tweaks to get the most DPS out of something, while at the same time allowing people who just want to play and have fun and see the content to do that.
Okay.
Let's move on to the questions from this week's episode.
Well, where else will we move?
I only pulled up 2 from last week's episode. The first one here today is from Dark Drake 0210, who asked, can you add an auto progress button to the party screen so if it stops for no reason, we can just start it again, please?
Auto progress button to the party screen.
So I think on the party screen we indicate when auto progress is stopped.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I guess there's sort of a little bit of a pause on stops for no reason. I assume that's typically not the case, that it's not stopping for no reason, or it shouldn't be stopping for no reason. I know it feels like sometimes perhaps no obvious reason, but adding a button back to it to say try again, I mean, it's a thought. I would like to see sort of what the stop reasons on those were. I know sort of there are some caveats around sort of having like auto progress sort of keep continuing to try and turn back on for a party, especially sort of when doing offline progress on it. But yeah, I mean, I think the question would be, is this more something like you could go back and say try again after it's been idling for a while, as opposed to having it stop? What do you think?
I am not sure. I'm going to guess that there are some situations that cause it to stop in places where it seems like they should be, or they are able to keep going. And this feels like, I mean, it feels like the real solution here is to make it so that the background parties don't stop for no reason.
Yeah, I agree.
But as a stopgap in the meantime, allowing players to very quickly hit the button to go again, I would say.
That's right. Give it another shot. Try again. I think yeah. I don't like these results.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's certainly something we should consider, and also, if there are, if anyone has a reliable case where it's just stopping, that's something we want to see, because I can get Mark to take a look at that and see why, because it shouldn't just be stopping for no reason. That's got to be extremely frustrating. Okay, next question. This question is from the West Dude, asking, when is the update to hard cap briv jump slot 4 at 9 jump going to go in?
We don't have a excuse me, a date for this yet. We're still kind of investigating how we want to approach this. I think I've mentioned on some previous episodes the idea of approaching this on a larger scale and finding a way to kind of cap things across the board. But at this point, we have not yet made a final decision on that. So we don't really have an answer for you on this one yet.
Okay, next question. This is from Raphael 9304. Nope, not quite. Nope, 340.
There you go. I assume that's their zip code.
I mean, did you guys consider adding the companions from Neverwinter Nights 2 into the game? We had exactly 12 companions in that game: a dwarf, fighter, monk, tiefling, rogue, elf, druid, human sorcerer, gnome bard, human paladin, human ranger, human fighter, elf wizard, Githyraki cleric, construct fighter. What? Did I say that right? Oh, shoot, that's the wrong
stuff. The other one.
I'm not going to try that. Sorry. And a human warlock. In my opinion, the only problem would be to know who has the right for the IP and the characters.
Yeah, so, excuse me. I think the answer to this is really, in terms of going back into older content and pulling champions out of those, that is something we do from time to time.
It's true. We included Deacon, who was from Neverwinter Nights 1.
Yeah, we have Deacon in there from Neverwinter Nights 1. The thing is, we do tend to like to pull champions from newer stuff, from stuff that is currently active, because in general, there's a bigger fan base around those, and more people will get excited about them. But with that said, we do sometimes go back and grab things from old things. For example, we did Dungeon Master from the cartoon, War Duke and Strongheart also from older content recently, and I think we'll continue to do that from time to time. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's. I wouldn't say we would never go back and look at the companions from Neverwinter Nights 2. I'm assuming that they're likely owned by Wizards in terms of the IP.
Yeah, I think
Wizards
so.
Owns
Yeah.
pretty much all. Wizards owns all of the CNE original characters that we've made, right? So
yeah, the licensing flows back up that way, so it can be used across the IP.
That's my understanding in it. I could be wrong there. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know the
Well, I'm
specifics,
pretty sure that's how that works.
I want to hedge there a little bit.
You might be hedging a little too hard, Justin, but
yeah, I could see us adding some stuff in there. I think before we add stuff from Neverwinter Nights 2, we are probably going to add stuff from Baldur's Gate 3. In fact, by probably, I mean most definitely, because I think we've already announced that there's a couple of the characters from that game coming very soon.
Did we ever get an answer on that from last show, Justin, whether it was all, or whether all meant all, or all meant just all that had been announced at that time?
At this point, I know how many it is. But I don't think I can say on stream.
I see. So that's all you know.
Yeah. All I know is what I can say on stream, and I don't actually know anything else.
All right. Moving on from whatever that train wreck was. Emote asks, I am curious whether you've made a decision about where the unaffiliated core will become available, or where it will become available once the Season 3 exclusivity ends in late November yet. I would hope Gems, because it was on the free track and only needed for Season Tier 3. And also curious why we haven't had a blog post about that yet. Season 1 and Season 2 got their end-of-season exclusivity detail blog posts really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think this was asked several weeks ago. Actually, it was asked back in May. And I did follow up with the executive producer at that point and checked in, and I got back a man shrugging emoji, and that is the last I have talked to him about that. So my guess at this point is we're not sure whether it will go into Wild Offers or into the Gem Shop. And that is something that we will have to figure out before November. And I'm sure once we do figure that out, we will let everyone know where that's going to come. There are some parts of the production train that are running very smoothly, and there are some parts that are always just barely above water. And I think that's one of the things that's gotten bumped down the priority list, just because it's not an issue until November. And once November comes along, then it will light on fire, and we will figure out what the answer is.
That was quite a mixed bag of analogies. The train is above water. The train, and then it's on fire.
Is running off the bridge into the water until it catches on fire, in which case it will be a barrel of monkeys. Anyway, I'm just going to cough for a second, then I'll ask you a question.
Sounds great.
Okay, this next question is also from Emote, and they're asking, when using about e to the 5 bounty contracts in a single adventure, the game will get to a point where it refuses to save. It gets an error from the server, and the only fix is to reload the game entirely. However, doing that will roll back the last successful save, so you won't have any tokens used after that save. But strangely, sometimes it will be missing the contracts used after that save. Is this something you'll be looking into as a part of increasing the amount we can use in one go?
Yeah, all right. I'm just going to tag this so that we can try it and see what the data looks like. Like I feel like this is a question. In fact, I'm really quite confident that you asked this previously, and we didn't know exactly why that was happening, or what would be causing that to happen server side, or how many entries maybe this is creating as part of the save. I think the only way that we're gonna get to the bottom of this is just to try it and look at what the data looks like that's being sent back, and see if there's an error we can make heads or tails of. I mean, it should be fairly straightforward if we start sending the 5 bounty contracts in a single adventure and seeing why it's refusing to save. So I'll tag that, and I'll ask Mark to take a look at it. I think this should be something that once we actually load it up and do it, we should know pretty quickly what's happening there. So we tag that and fix it. And even the 5 bounty contracts is quite a lot. actually.
Yes, yes, it is. Just a casual 100,000 bounty contracts. Yeah. No problem. This is something every player does every day. Okay.
Yeah. Next question.
Let's move on to the next question.
This one is from Garwar. Garwar would like to know, would you discuss the balance decision that resulted in Crux's health share ability, batten down the hatches, being so much lower than every other tank in the game to start, until we wait a couple of years for you to complete the Xerxes campaign / variants?
Yeah, so appreciate this question. It's definitely something that we were aware of. Folks would notice and ask questions about, and really it just comes down to a couple of things. One is Crux is an evergreen champion, so they're going to be around, available to recruit in that campaign for a very long time, for I would say forever, and we did want to, when we're designing champions, we're not necessarily thinking about how they are right away, but we're thinking about how are they going to be in a year or in a couple of years, and who are they going to synergize with now, and who are they going to synergize with in the future. A good example of that is, when Artemis was added to the game, he was like an F tier champion because he didn't have enough other champions to synergize with. And then lo and behold, you go and you add 40 or 50 champions to the game, and all of a sudden he has a whole bunch of champions to synergize with and becomes this incredible like S tier champion. So in a similar way, we're kind of designing Crux with the idea of him having this ability that will scale up from a point of being not all that good, kind of right now with the number of variants and adventures that are available, to being really freaking good down the road when you've completed all of Xerxes, once we finish that campaign and all the variants, which will definitely happen at some point down the road. We do try to finish the campaigns, at least the base adventures, within about a year and a half or so of the campaign coming out, and so at that point then it'll just be some of the variants and obviously the harder patron variants that will need to be filled out, and those generally get filled out as well over time. So I know there's a couple of comments in there about the patron variants not working. They are supposed to work, and I think that is something that Dev is aware of, and I know is on the fix list. I think it's just the stat that's being used is not tracking properly, but it will be retroactively fixed once the team gets to that one, if it's not already. Okay. The next question here, I saw this question. I'm like, I don't know what this question is asking about. I don't know if this is a joke question or if I'm just missing something. But Engel Tiger asked, when do we get an actual farming theme mini game in the game? And I was hoping that Engel Tiger could expand on this question with what they mean by this.
It sounds like actual farming, Justin. I think they're looking for like
farming. They want to combine their Stardew Valley with their idle champions. And,
they'd like I think so. A farm, and you can put your champions that you're not using on it, and they can tend to your crops. And I think this is perfect. Little minx with a watering can. Yeah, I think so. That's what they're asking. 100%.
Okay.
No room for interpretation on that.
All right. April 2024. There we go.
April when? The first of the month?
Either the first of the month or the last of the month.
Okay.
And when it doesn't happen, you come here in the May 4th Dev Insights in 2024 and you blast me for not putting it into the game yet.
I think the chat's decided it's the fishing mini game they'd like, not the farming.
No, the fishing mini game is not happening. Sorry, guys. Not going to happen.
Okay.
That's crazy.
All right, next question. The next question is from OG17 asking, why does Vin Ursa incentivize burning bounty contracts regardless of the situation? Newer players don't often understand their value for events.
Yeah, so Vin Ursa does have an ability that buffs up some of her other abilities based on the number of bounty contracts used in the current adventure. I don't know. I mean, I know there's been this kind of discussion in the community about that incentivizing players to just waste bounty contracts. I'm not sure that's necessarily happening in practice. I think that the ability is there to incentivize players or it's there to provide a way to buff up Venersa with more power when you need it, but you don't necessarily need that on every single run. If you want to use that on every single run, you certainly can. I think people who are in a situation where they will want to use that on every single run won't have a problem throwing 100 bounty contracts at it, especially in a situation where just a couple of questions ago players were talking about using 100,000 bounty contracts on a single run. That'll get you 1,000 runs, and I think or 100 no, 1,000 runs, so I think you'll be okay. In terms of new players not understanding their value for events, I think that's still true whether there's a champion who uses bounty contracts or not. There are still going to be players who use bounty contracts outside of events, and that would be a non-optimal play. So I don't think that we're necessarily causing more non-optimal play there. But it's also an opportunity. It's a learning opportunity, and I think that can be a situation where players can find interesting things in the game where they're playing it one way, and then they go into Discord, or they go on to Reddit or some other place, and see players talking about, well, are you doing this? Maybe you should try doing this. It'll be more efficient, and then they'll have like an aha moment and find an efficiency to add to their game. But I think in general, I think it's been a little bit overblown in terms of how big of an impact it's going to have on newer players. I think that newer players are not going to necessarily have I think this is an issue where end game players are kind of conflating how new players are going to be playing the game. Like an end game player is going to go into an event and use a bunch of bounty contracts to get a bunch more tokens, to get a bunch more chests. A new player is never going to have enough bounty contracts to actually even get more than 1 or 2 extra runs. And so I just don't think it's really as big a deal as people think it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of we of course talked about this before off stream, and I see another question further down, which was also similar sentiment that I highlighted that obviously was passed on when we get there. But I think one of the things that I remember when we discussed it before is that players, when you come into the way that events are balanced, is that you're intended to actually be able to complete them without having to use bounty contracts like that. So I mean, you come into your first event, without a whole lot of bounty contracts, you're still going to be able to do it. You just won't have that sort of initial boost. So I'm not sure, that it has as much of an impact. I mean, I guess the proof here would be, or not proof per se, but sort of the more the smoking gun would be a bunch of new players being in a situation where like, well, I used all my contracts and then it screwed it up and I couldn't finish the event. That would be something we'd look at and be like, oh, okay, this had an impact. But sort of this is all hypothetical, that it may have an impact and they may not finish the event because of it. And I'm not sure that I've seen a single person who said that, hey, I'm the person who ended up in this situation. Yeah. I mean, I think we'll keep an eye on it, but I don't know that it is as much of a problem as sort of it sounds like it could be, or it's being made to be sound like, or made to sound. Wow, words are difficult. Yeah, and I think that's what you were getting at.
It looks like the giveaway is starting already. So before we move on to the next question, I'll just quickly plug the 42 chest giveaway. This happens every week. If you're new to the chat, welcome. This is your chance to win 42 chests of your choice. All you have to do is type in the special keyword. It is Barbenheimer. I would just copy and paste it from what other people are saying rather than trying to type it in yourself, just in case. And that will enter you into a draw to potentially win
a double feature
of your choice, or 2 movie tickets. Yeah. No, wait, I'm not giving you. It's just 42
That's
chests.
Right.
We're not giving away movie tickets.
5 hours of your life you'll never get back. Almost all of that being in Oppenheimer. Oh, I mean, I hear that one. That one takes the length cake from Avatar 2 there, Justin.
Oh, really? I haven't seen either movie because I've been coughing like this. And if you try and go into a theater while coughing, like, well, they won't do anything, but you'll feel bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will see them when they come to streaming. Okie dokie.
Cool. Next question. This question is from Emote. This question is actually 3 questions. All right.
Cool. And one of them I've just answered. So
3 questions on Vin Ursa. Question 1. Why did you continue with the bounty contract ability that promotes the use of bounties outside of events? A mistake new players cannot afford to make. 2. Why was she put in seat 7? She's there with Caddy and Egbert, while seat 10 has no ranged or favored foe abilities at all, and she would have been great in. And 3. Why is she not a DPS? Her theme fits a DPS perfectly, and we always need more ranged DPSs.
Yeah, so the first question we've kind of already went over, though I do like I think it further reinforces my point that it's kind of asked as using bounties outside of events is a mistake that new players cannot afford to make. Really does kind of reinforce the fact that using bounty contracts outside of events isn't as efficient as using them inside events. But it's not a game-ending mistake. That means like a new player can then no longer play the game or progress in the game or things like that. So I do take exception to that kind of language. For number
just
2,
thinking, I think, but yeah.
For number 2, why she wasn't put in seat 7, I'm actually just going to look that up right now. Seats is something that's really hard for us. As we get more and more champions, there's more and more restrictions on what seats we put champions in. Some of the things that go into that consideration are seats that we've recently used for event champions. So generally we try not to put champions in the same slot as a champion who has come out in the last 5 or 6 events. We also try to make sure that this doesn't apply to Vin Ursa, but certainly champions in the same affiliation, we don't want those to be in the same seat as much as possible. We do look at things like the ranged, magic, and melee distribution. We look at things like the class distribution, the race distribution, the gender distribution in a seat. And unfortunately, in the design doc here, it looks like we have removed all of the stuff we put in about seats. Even though we do a seat analysis for every single champion, Vin Ursa does not have one, which is very strange. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think what it was we were looking at her primarily from a seeing the original standpoint. And we were looking for a seat that didn't have a scene original and had some slots we could fill. Yeah, there are some details here. The other thing that sometimes happens is we start with a certain kind of thought for the champion of what they're going to be, and then through the design process after picking the seat, that design process sometimes slightly changes what the champion is. So it's possible that Vin Ursa didn't start out as or started out as like a tank ranged or something like that, and then got moved away from that, or she started out with slightly different roles. Yeah, there's a note here in the design doc that we were aware of the fact that Caddy and Egbert were both already in the slot, and so she wouldn't work with kind of a Solak. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure on why she got put into seat 7, but in general, I would say that assigning champions to seats is actually one of the harder things about designing new champions. There's never a perfect option for where to put a champion, and it's often about the best of a couple of bad choices. So that is why she got put in there. And if I can just look at seat 10 here. Yeah, I'm not sure why we avoided seat 10. It was possible we were saving seat 10 for a different upcoming champion or something like that. Yeah, because we do have a champion going into seat 10 in a couple of events, I think. Yeah. So that might have been why she got shifted out of seat 10. Because yeah, we have a champion going into seat 10 in 2 events. And the last question was why she was not a DPS. We do try to pull back on DPS champions and not do too many of them, which I know sounds ridiculous considering that Crux as an evergreen was just released as a DPS without any sort of real DPS stuff. I think there's a good argument to be made that we could have swapped that around and removed the DPS tag from Crux and assigned it to Vinursa. You will know that people who are paying attention will notice that Crux and Vinursa actually have quite a bit of overlap. They were both designed with the Xerxes campaign in mind, and so they both have kind of a favored foe mechanic and a kind of and that kind of thing. And so they're actually very similar champions. And I think we very easily could have made Vinursa a DPS champion and made Crux and removed that from Crux. So, yeah, I think that's. Someone's saying that Eliwick is in seat 10 as and in the same event. That is another thing that factors in. We don't like to overlap champions in the same seat in the event. We are kind of, at this point, we are leaning a little bit away from that, at least in regards to retired champions, where if there's like a year 1, 2, or 3 champion in the same seat, we still leave open the possibility of putting like a year 7 champion in that slot, because we're just running out of seats. Really, it's getting more and more restrictive. But yeah. Whew. Okay, and that is the last question I will answer about Vinursa, except for this next question.
It wasn't even highlighted.
I'll highlight it.
Oh, you're just sneaking it in there. All right.
Not that I know the answer to it, but I'll highlight it.
Yeah, I saw that question. I kind of wondered myself, actually. Anyway, the next question is from OG17, and they're asking, is Vinursa being gnome-sized intentional? She loses a lot of visual detail at this scale.
So I'm going to say I don't know for sure, but I assume that it is intentional. I know that plasmoids, which is what Vinursa is, are on the smaller side. Oh, Mars is typing something here. Yes. So he's saying it was intentional. Her bio says that she was raised by autognomes, which are gnomes in space. And so
space gnomes.
And so she probably she's a plasmoid. They can kind of adjust their body shape, and I think she probably intentionally keeps herself kind of little, like her gnomey friends. Thanks, Mars.
Are people still having an are you still coming through quiet for people?
I wouldn't know. I sound great in my ears.
That's true. Reverse the question. How's Justin sound, chat?
Everyone's just gotten used to me being quiet.
Yeah, I hear Justin. Okay. Sounds like an onboard mic. Rough.
I'm pretty sure I'm coming through the main one here. Anyway, let's answer some more questions.
Yes, let's do that. Okay. Let's see. Next question here is from Canelian, asking, in Season 1, you specified the distinction between slows, stuns, and root for some of the Heroic champion abilities. As far as I can tell, though, both Sentry's and Jahir's vines, which seem like they should be roots, are actually still stuns. In fact, I can't think of any actual root effects in the game. Are there actually any?
So I'm not 100% sure on this, but the design intention of roots is that if they are a ranged monster, they would still be able to ranged attack, whereas a melee a monster wouldn't be able to attack until it was up to the champion. So I think if a melee monster was at the tank line, and got rooted, it wouldn't have any real effect on that monster. Whereas a stun would actually prevent them from attacking. So I think that is the design intention of those two. I can't say I've noticed one way or the other while playing whether or not a root actually acts as a stun and stops them from attacking as well. Some folks are saying it adds to Wolfgar's spec, and that is interesting. I'm gonna highlight this and see, and see if in the actual game code it's counting those as stuns for the purposes of Wolfgar and whatnot, because there is supposed to be a differentiation between them as we specified in season 1. So yeah, we'll look into that.
Okay. Next question. This was, I thought, kind of an interesting question. It's from Library of Akasha, and they ask, thoughts on a champion that doesn't have to be in the formation to support the formation. Level them up like any other champion, but if you don't place them in the formation, preferably slot 1 or 2, as it's a speed champion if possible. All right.
I love that all of Library of Akasha's questions are just like, I want to go faster. Can you make it so I can go faster? So yeah, I mean, this is an interesting kind of question and an idea that we've definitely thought of, the idea of having bench champions be able to support the formation in some way as a way of, basically encouraging players to level up more champions. With that said, it does feel a little bit awkward with really, there's 12 bench slots and generally 10 slots in a formation. And so that means you've kind of had 2 that you'd pick from to kind of be your cheerleaders from the sidelines, for lack of a better term. And I think the ways that we would allow them to support the formation would have to be restricted, because essentially they wouldn't be, they wouldn't end up. We wouldn't want them to be as powerful as a champion in the formation, because that kind of takes away from that strategy kind of stuff that we talked about at the top of the show, about sort of making the game more idle versus the kind of formation strategy. So yeah, I think that it's an interesting thought, and I'm not 100% sure how we would approach it if we thought of doing something like this, but it's not high on my list of things that I think would make the game more interesting.
Okay. And here is this is a cheeky question.
So cheeky.
But I thought I'd ask it because it was fun anyway. This is another question from Library of Akasha. And I would like to know, could you place the Season 6 champions in the data somewhere where Emote or other data miners could find it? The sooner we know who they are, the better. But this way, only those who want to know ahead of time will.
Season 6. Why not the Season 5 ones are already in there, but yeah, I think in order for the Season 6 champions to be in the data somewhere, we'd have to actually be done the redesign on them, and I still have a week and a half to finish that. So yeah, the Season 6 champions, they will show up in the data at some point, at the point at which we start working on them. But we are still finishing up the Season 5 champion rebalances, and once those are done, the team will move on to Season 6, and those champions will show up somewhere. So patience, my friend.
Okay. Yeah, next question. This is another Library of Akasha question. Estimated date for the Trials of Mount Tiamat overhaul?
Randram was just saying the Black Viper better be in the Season 6 rebalance, or they'll be upset. So estimated date for the Trials of Mount Tiamat overhaul. So the way that our production cycles work and our development cycles work is we basically have just enough free development resources to work on sort of one big new feature at a time, sort of between other bug fixes and trying to catch up on build locks and stuff like that. So right now, our extra resources are on the collection dialogue update. which we are hoping to have out I think by the end of the year, depending on how much other stuff comes out. And so the Trials of Mount Tiamat rework will be the next major thing after that. So I would hope that Canelian says early 2022. So the answer I would hope would be in the first half of 2024. If I was optimistic about things, I guess I would say April 2024. But again, as with the farming thing, I cannot guarantee that. Nor can I guarantee that the Trials of Mount Tiamat overhaul won't just be a farming minigame. So, yeah. Hopefully the first half of 2024, but right now we haven't even started on the development side of that. Just the design side is done.
So what I heard was farming minigame confirmed.
We're going to replace Trials of Mount Tiamat with a farming minigame in April of 2024. Confirmed.
Could work. Yeah, could
Clip
work.
it.
Yeah.
All right. The next question here is from Aspilla357, who asks, on existing save formations in slot 1, 2, and 3, why are we unable to swap slots / clear slots? As it currently is, you have to swap a formation not in 1, 2, 3 into 1, 2, 3 first to clear one or delete it, and then move things around.
Do you understand what they're saying?
Nope.
I'm not 100% sure. As it currently is, you have to swap a formation that's not in 1, 2, 3 into 1, 2, 3 to clear one or delete it. Maybe
these are like the 1, 2, 3 is the bonus. They're the sort of the favorited formations, right? The ones that are starred.
Oh, Mars for the save.
Aha.
Saying you can't move save 1 to save. Oh, I see. Slot. Okay, they're saying that you actually have to unfavorite one and then refavorite it. There's no way to just switch to a different save, a different favorited save. I see.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's a good question. I'll have to look at the way the UI is set up for that, because right now when you click on the star for it, does it just pick the next available one? Like we don't actually let you pick which one of 1, 2, 3 that it is.
I thought you do get to pick which one of 1, 2, 3 it is.
I'm trying to remember how that piece of UI works. Well, it's certainly something that we could take a quick look at. I don't know that off the top of my head what that currently works, and I think it was just, as far as like why is it that way, I think it was just how it ended up. It wasn't something that was prioritized, being able to pick and swap them around, but take a look.
Yeah.
All right, and there was the bounty contract question that I mentioned earlier.
Yes,
so
moving
moving on.
Answered that one before.
Yeah, it's true. On to the next question here, which I'm sure is actually perfectly serious. I think it is. No, sorry, I just read it at first. It sounded. This is from LazyCat 97202. Can we get a dress uniform for Commander Crux?
I think that's a fun idea. I'm sure they've already got a bunch of skins planned for Commander Crux or Commodore Crux.
I first read that as, can we get a dress for Commander Crux? So this is a question. Oh wait, it's uniform. Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, why not both? One of each. All right. The next question is from Aspilla357 again, who asks, on the Android platform, what type of fixes do you force an update through the Google Play Store, and what kinds don't?
Yeah, so whenever we end up having to do like a game content or feature update, that ends up going through the Google Play Store. I think the question, and forgive my not knowing this off the top of my head, but is there such a setup where we can actually force an update through the?
I think we can if we set the minimum version requirement on our side, then we can. When you open the game, it'll say, "Hey, you need to update before you can keep playing." In which case, you have to go to the store an update.
And get the latest version.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the kind of, mainly it's not fixes that end up being forced like that. Mainly it's sort of content updates that end up being fixed like that, like the events. We do actually still force that for the events, right? We just let you run until you close the client before.
I do not know what Peter forces on that. Peter took that over from me years ago at this point, and I'm not sure when we force versus when we just kind of allow players to play with an older version.
Yeah,
I would think that we would force with each event, because in general, there's going to be new champion tech in there, and if you don't have the new champion tech and you have the champion, it's going to result in kind of funky behavior. So
yeah, I mean, you can't use the new champion without the new champion tech in place. So there's going to be version requirements on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, every time there's a new event, you're going to need to get a new client update. But typically for fixes, sort of as the question asked, we typically don't force fixes unless something is like extremely broken, like something that's actually like breaking your game or breaking your data, or you know, if there's some kind of a massive exploit or something like that, then we'll force an update. But that comes up pretty rarely. In fact, I can't think of the last time we ended up forcing, like actually forcing a client for a fix.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Generally, it'll be game breaking stuff that will actually force players to refresh while they're actively playing. So we very rarely want to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Next question here is from Shadowcaster.
No, I just highlighted this one too. We don't need to read this one out. I've just highlighted it to be passed on to the dev team.
Okay. Cool.
Shadowcaster, your question is being passed on to the dev team.
But we refuse to read it out.
Well, we've only got a couple of minutes left. I figure we can go
Fair
on
enough.
to...
Next question. This is from the Lebian Witch. Is the game officially licensed? Is the game canon to the Forgotten Realms? Like, I can take a character interactions from this game as canon.
Yeah, so the answer to this is I guess, a couple parts. It is officially licensed, so yes, the stuff in the game is well, as we were saying before, it flows back to Wizards. So Wizards owns everything that's in the game. It's all, you know, they could use it as canon. I think in the way that Wizards canon stuff works is only the stuff in their books counts as canon. So the official storybooks are canon, and everything else is kind of in this nebulous thing around it. So yeah, the stuff that happens in our game is sort of our tables play of this content, and not necessarily everyone's how it turns out for everyone. That's kind of how I would think about it. I'd think about it as we're DMing a game for you, and this is how our game has ended up, but is not necessarily like how it ends up by canon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right on that. It's only the content that they release is officially canon. Mm-hmm. But they are certainly able to take content that we've created and incorporate that if that was something that made sense. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite canon that you know, the characters get up to level 2000.
Yes,
it's a
level 5,000 Dritz booping a beholder on the nose is not necessarily canon.
Yeah, little creative license on the game rules there on our end. Yeah.
Looks like we got time for one or two more questions.
Sure.
The next one here is from Turk Dog TV, who asks, any plans on improving the PC user experience, 4K, closer to mobile designs, etc.?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Certainly, we have two UIs for the PC version because we have access to if you're playing on the PC client, you can of course switch over to the console client, which is sort of the gamepad UI option. Right now, we don't have any plans to make everything or to move everything up to 4K, and we're not planning to make major changes to the UI, just sort of in general. As sort of Justin alluded to earlier, you know, we have a certain amount of development resources available at any given time, and we try to prioritize that on, you know, working towards new features rather than going back and sort of revisiting, you know, the visual design of older features. So at this point, sort of no major plans on sort of on a PC UI or user experience rework.
Yeah.
Okay. Last
You want to
question.
do one more? Yeah, this one's from D Zior, who asks, is it possible to make the credits roll slower so I can actually read the names of the awesome people who made this great game?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and it sort of raises the question, actually, if that's impacted by speed potions. Because I mean, I don't think the last time we looked at the credits, you could see them. It's been a while since I clicked that button.
I think Mars seems to imply here in his comment on this that they are affected by speed potions.
That would make sense.
I think at normal speed they go by at a slow enough speed that you can read them, but you might have had Shandy or some speed potions active, or Human's Feet or other things that just increase the game speed. And I think there are some bits of the UI that are affected by that probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And I think the credits would be one of those things.
And that feels like something that we totally could have missed.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so easy.
That was something we wouldn't have gone back and looked at high speeds.
You only have to open the credits once in the game, and that's just to get the achievement for watching the credits.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for new players: if you haven't watched the credits yet, you can get 1% more DPS by watching the credits, and you can put on a 10 times speed potion so that you can just watch the credits in 2 seconds.
All right. Well, I think that is definitely all that we have time for today.
Yes, indeed. If we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry. You will have another opportunity. We'll be live again next week. Yes. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to domo our tireless mods, Mars and Jay. They're the folks who copy your questions into our questions doc and generally make things awesome. Domo arigato, guys.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game. Without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
And we like what we do.
All right. That's it for today. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Bye. There's definitely no more.
All right. I got one, but it's a 2-person bit. You're going to have to play along.
But I haven't seen it yet.
Just read the line.
Oh, okay. These ones here. Okay, fine. What do we want?
Racing car noises.
When do we want them?
Meow. That's good.